So if you've been on the internet at all recently, you've definitely seen one of the countless indie animated shows on YouTube. Shows like The Amazing Digital Circus, Lackadaisy, Ramshackle, and Murder Drones all fall into this category. All shows that, miraculously, with small budget and team, made a product that's just as good, if not better, than the shows in the industry. And people have taken notice. The Amazing Digital Circus is now on Netflix. Glitch has started funding merch for smaller shows, and there are so many shows being greenlit. Just to name off a few: Epilogue of Endings, Atlas in the Stars, Sunset Paradise, Catching Up, Godspeed, Spooky Month, Edgeworlds, BFDI, and all the other object shows, Monkey Wrench, and Port by the Sea. And though pilots like these have been made for years, this trend of blooming indie shows really started up from two projects in particular: Helluva Boss and Hazbin Hotel. Two indie animated pilots made by the animation studio Spindle Horse, released under the Vivzy Bop channel for free on YouTube. These pilots were in development for years and years, and luckily got the praise they deserved. They garnered millions and millions of views and inspired dozens of creators to make their own shows. Hell, Hazbin even got picked up by Amazon Prime to become a real show. But all that happened years ago, so now in the present, things have moved along quite a bit. Helluva Boss continued here on YouTube and is currently approaching the end of its second season, an impressive feat. It has been released its first 8 episodes on the Prime in early 2024, the second season hopefully coming out sometime soon. However, with all this new attention and content, there was bound to be some criticism, and oh boy was there criticism. For about 5 months after Hazbin came out, and basically a month after every Helluva Boss episode, there's a barrage of haters trashing the show, hating on the art style, or the comedy, or the writing, or characters, which stained the reputation of the shows that were once regarded as YouTube's best. But do they deserve it? Are these shows really as bad as everyone says, or is the fandom correct about it? Well, I might as well tell you now since I put it in the title, but I absolutely adore both of these shows. So, in yet another retrospective, it's time we go over my extended thoughts on both of these shows, rank all the episodes, seasons, and songs since they're musicals, and my final thoughts on why the internet is wrong about Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss. And heavy spoilers for both shows, obviously. So let's start off with Helluva Boss, since it was the first full-length show. As always, we'll start off with my complaints and consensus. Now, we should get out of the way the fact that even though Helluva Boss is one of my favorite cartoons, I do slightly prefer Hazbin Hotel. Yeah, I mean, it's very slight since they basically, are the same show, but I think Hazbin is just, a tiny bit more consistent. I think my biggest problem, and many others' biggest problems with the show, is the balancing. You see, back in Season 1, the show did a really good job of balancing the funny adventures with the character drama, leading to some of the best episodes of the whole show. Season 2, however, did not do this well. It's not a horrible issue, and recently they have found their footing again, but for a long time in Season 2, comedy adventures got sidelined hard for the drama between, Blitz and Stolas, which we'll get to, and while I don't mind this drama, they just don't know when to make it end. Some other issues with the show is that the comedy does land most of the time, sometimes it can be a bit too much, and not all the songs land for me. Also, certain arcs and characters just get too much focus, leaving other characters like Millie completely lost in the story. Pregnancy is neat. Finally, and this is partly just because of how long each episode takes to come out, the show picks up and drops plotlines so frequently. There are cliffhangers from Season 1 still unresolved and characters we haven't seen in 8 episodes, so I wish that they could maybe try and pace the whole thing a bit better. Alright, that's most of the complaints. So let's get to the episode, season, and song ranking. So what's the worst episode? Well, you probably saw this coming, since even the die-hard fans agree Unhappy Campers is just not a good episode at all. Most of the attempts to be funny don't land, all the characters are at their worst here, and it kind of ruins Millie as a character. One saving grace of this episode is the Barbie wire stuff, which is actually pretty well written, and where most of the comedy works. I think Blitz's breakdown in front of her is pretty well written, and the cocaine joke actually got a laugh out of me, but once again, this episode just ruins Millie, and also Moxie. One of my biggest problems with the show is Millie. She has so much potential that they just never use. She's always just there to either be Moxie's wife, Luna's coworker, or Blitz's friend. She never has any arcs or progressions. She's kind of just there, which sucks because she's probably the most interesting out of all of them. Now, this episode actually did try and give her some development, but God, they butchered it so badly. They tried saying that she wanted the spotlight and to be recognized by people, but it came out of nowhere. There was literally nothing to signify that was ever a thing, and it didn't feel natural. Plus, in her own episode, this arc was literally made just to comfort Moxie. Speaking of Moxie, he is so goddamn annoying in this episode. He's never funny, and they just ruin his character with the whole persona he plays. God, I've met Richard Horvitz in real life. Great dude. Love all his voice acting. But his, persona disguised voice actually makes me want to kill myself. So yeah, by far the worst episode. The next one is kind of expected because of how, old it is. I mean, the pilot isn't that bad, it's just the least interesting. It is the lowest stakes, and while I do like the laid-back style, it's just not very gripping. It was clear that they needed episode 1 to properly establish everything with the show. I mean, it's really not a bad first installment, but yeah, really not the best episode. The next one isn't nearly as bad, and it's actually pretty good. X's and Oo's is a mixed episode, but still a good episode. My biggest problem with it is the tonal whiplash, which hits hard. It goes from a pretty funny scene with Chaz to Moxie killing his own mom, and it does not mix well at all. I still like all the Moxie backstory stuff, but it just feels out of place in this mostly lighthearted episode. Next up is actually a bit of a hot take, Spring Broken. Look, I still really like the episode, but out of all the classic episodes, it stands out as the worst. Some of the jokes just go on for far too long, some joke attempts don't work well, and Vortex is possibly the least likable, most predictable love interest in anything ever. I like Veronica, she's a good character, and Drunk Moxie is one of the funniest bits in the show, but wow, that's just not as good as the fandom makes it out to be. At least I think. I mean, I stay far, far away from the Helluva Boss fandom. They're completely insane. Next up, The Circus. A really solid start to season 2 that finally gives us an origin for Stolas and Blitz's relationship. I do think it loses a bit of steam after the powerhouse that was Ozzy's, but as a standalone episode, it works really well. Next up, Western Energy. The only reason it's this low is because I feel like they kind of wasted Stryker. Sure, he's really funny in this, and that gag with this song is hysterical, but I just feel like compared to the Harvest Moon Festival, Stryker's so weak and incapable of anything. He lost all intimidation factor, and while this episode is still good, I just have to knock points for that. Next up is possibly the most underrated episode in the whole show. Guys, Cherub is actually really good, and in my opinion, one of the funniest episodes in the whole show. It's not the most well-written, which is why it's lower on the list, but the comedy is so unbelievably good in this one. So many iconic quotes and character moments, so many gags and funny side characters. It's just a riot, and establishes some cool villains for the show. Next up is an episode that I often forget despite it being pretty great. It's probably because it's the perfect middle for this ranking, even though it's not the middle. Seeing Stars. Did not like the very sudden tonal whiplash and total lack of mention of the events that transpired in the last episode, or the finale of Ozzy. You know what I mean. Even just a bit of awkwardness between Stolas and Blitz would have been good, but we got literally nothing. They're just completely fine around each other. It's just back to how it was. Yeah, just completely forget the entire point of the last episode. Also, this adventure just felt a bit bare bones compared to others, taking place in a boring setting. Despite those problems, though, I love more screen time for Octavia in the show. Her and Luna's talk was really well written, and many of the jokes landed really well. So yeah, middle of the road episode. Next up was an episode that was slightly disappointing, but still a great episode. Queen Bee was hyped up a lot as the finale, and I was expecting something as crazy and mind-boggling as the first part of the finale. But we ended up getting a super laid-back episode. Honestly, if it weren't hyped up so much, it'd be higher on the list. But still, it's a really good episode that gives some much-needed Luna development, some great gags, and Beelzebub, one of my favorite characters. Next up, which I'm surprised about the placement, Murder Family. Yeah, sorry pilot, but there's just a reason you're not canon anymore. This is just a far better introduction to the show and the characters, as well as being a consistently hilarious and being super nostalgic for me. Grammar is pretty good. Next up, we have Oops. I feel like it's a bit overshadowed because of the follow-up, but it's really important to me because it's kind of the first really good episode of Season 2. It finally gives us insight on Fizz and his backstory, it develops Bliss and Fizz's relationship very well, and overall, the pacing works amazingly. Not to mention one of my favorite songs in the whole show, and this is just an amazing episode. Next up, Lululand, which is probably one of my favorite out of the original ones. It starts off with one of the most beautiful sequences in the entire show, as well as a super great song. It then dives into Octavia, a criminally underused character. RoboFizz is a cool villain, simultaneously very funny and emotional, and it's just a really amazing episode. Next up is the newest episode. As of writing this, the other episodes of Season 2 are still in this ranking, but when I was writing this was the last episode to come out. Ghost fuckers. Holy shit. I was a tiny bit worried that it'd be another soap opera episode, but this is just so refreshing. A real, actual adventure. Season 1 level humor, incredible animation, the intimidating villain, the horrifying horror sequences, the great Blitz character development. Millie does something, at least, and a good balance between adventure and character stuff. My favorite parts were Moxie having a mental breakdown. Next up is definitely my favorite in Season 1, Harvest Moon Festival. The introduction of Stryker, the great imagery in the climax, the immaculate jokes, the song, Sally Mae, I would die for you, queen. The world building, Sally Mae, Moxie actually being capable for once, Sally Mae, and Sally Mae. Next up, one that got a little bit worse for me over time, but is still a really amazing one, Full Moon. Now that the shock of it is worn down, so is the episode. I love how they finally bring back up the old set, they bring back the old villains. I love how we get more fizz. I love the entire ending sequence. The whole lighting and the voice acting really sells the raw emotion in it. But not all of the jokes land for me, and I think most of the episode's just wasting time until the end. Still, though, an incredible episode. Next up, we have my actual favorite in Season 1, Aussies. Yeah, so you know how the shock value of Full Moon wore down over time? Yeah, this one never did. Every scene is just gut-wrenching and amazing. It has possibly the best song and accompanying sequence in the whole show. We get the introduction of we get the introduction to two new. This script is so bad. I really need to proofread these before I start reading it. I also probably need to cut this out and put it in like a blooper reel, but funny joke. Insert funny joke. Okay, we get introduced to two new amazing characters. We get Eminem's Ship Time, we get a heartbreaking scene at the end with Stolas and Blitz. Legitimately, what else could you even want with this episode? My one complaint is that I think the song goes on for a wee bit too long, but still, breathtaking episode. Next up, Mammon's Marvelous Mechanical Mid-Season Musical Museum. Though I don't appreciate 2 episodes in a row for Fizz, still, holy shit, this episode's so good. The animation, especially in this scene, is incredible. The songs are still stuck in my head. Mammon is hilariously evil. Fizz's character arc is well done. The deaf kid was such a great wholesome scene. Smash, just really well done. A powerhouse of an episode. Next up, which I promise this is actually my favorite in Season 1. I swear it's like picking a favorite kid. And is one that many consider the best in the entire show. Truth Seekers. This was once considered to be the magnum opus of the show, and I still consider it to be the best in Season 1. Though the art style has improved drastically over time, the art direction on this episode particularly caught my attention. The extended fight scene is still one of my absolute favorite animated scenes in the show, plus the drug trips of such stunning visuals and great songs and overwhelming effects, not to mention some of the funniest jokes.
Fat mom, taking her for a fat time.
Nice try, demon. His fat mom is dead!
And finally finishing Moxie's arc and giving him respect from Blitz. And that ending with Stolas using his demon form, holy shit, it's so good. It shows how threatening he is, even when 90% of the time he's just a silly little guy. Just an amazing episode. Now for third place, surprisingly, it's Apology to Her. Yeah, yet another Blitz and Stolas drama episode after Full Moon when I thought it would be the end. Not exactly set up to be the best, but I am so glad we got it. Stolas' song and breakdown while drunk, Blitz having to accept that Stolas might actually just move on, which scared me for a little bit, but thank God it didn't. The party to celebrate hating Blitz being really funny, Veronica giving an actually good speech, and that song, seriously, that song was so good, man. And as for the runner-up, of course, we have Sinsmas. I originally expected this to be a calm after the storm, a chill Christmas episode, and it might have started that way, but wow. It basically just feels like Mastermind never ended. They carried the perfect setup for Season 3 left from Mastermind while still carrying forward the plot, give us an incredible song, and oh my god, they did it! They gave Melly a setup for actual development by making her pregnant. You did it, Viv. Yippee, she actually is a character. Let's go. Such a great episode. Such a perfect episode. Just an impeccable, incredible, wonderful season finale that moves forward and still sets in stone the Stolas ship. Sets in stone the Stolas ship. That's a tongue twister. And beats the shit out of that stupid bird. But, of course, the best in the show, number 1, has got to be Mastermind. My only problem with it is that I wish it would have been just a little bit longer, but besides that, this is the best episode in the Vivzy Pop canon. As Danny Mata put it, it really does feel like a Helluva Boss movie. The stakes are so high, and they almost convinced me for a minute that they'd actually kill Stolas. And they're just good jokes while still being incredibly tense and showing the rest of the sins, the perfect song and accompanying visuals, and finally, making Stolas canon. After 2 seasons of build-up, they did it. But really, my favorite aspect was how unbelievably well it set up the next season. See, to restate myself, my big problems with the season were that it didn't resolve the plot lines from the first, instead set up way more. Millie didn't get any development again, it didn't do a good job of balancing the adventures with the drama, there wasn't any main villain, and God, it didn't know when to hurry up and have Stoltz be a couple. So let's go down the list. Brought up some season 1 threads, but it's a bit crazy to think episode 1... What? The grammar in this script makes no sense. It says... So let's... Okay, hold on. It says... Okay. This is... I forgot to state this in the script. This is how this episode fixes my main problems, the problems I listed before. Okay, it brought up some season 1 threads, and I mean, it didn't bring up all of them, but it would be crazy to assume one episode could do all of that. Still better than usual. Finally let Stoltz be a couple. It set up Stella as the main villain, and it set it up so Blitz will get way more customers now that he's, famous, which will lead to more adventures, while still balancing that with the drama with Stolas and his daughter. With Millie, what did you expect? The Holy Grail? Still, such an incredible episode that finally set up season 3 to give Millie development, put an end to Stella as a villain. Finally put an end to Stella as a villain. It sets up season 3 to end Stella as a villain. Finally made Stoltz official, had a banger song, visuals, jokes, writing, and Visago, which was, a great character. It's all just insanely great. Like, legitimately, how in the entire world did they make such a stunning, amazing episode? What else is going to be that one? I mean, I've seen some people hate on this episode, but I just don't get it, man. This feels like what Helluva Boss has been building up to, and feels like it, sets in stone season 3 to just be an amazing season. I struggled a lot with that one. That was a big struggle. So now it's time for the song ranking. So I should set up some ground rules. No instrumentals or background songs, only songs that the characters sing, unless I accidentally counted one that shouldn't have been counted, which is very likely because I'm not re-listening to the soundtrack if it's not on Spotify. So, number 27, Regular Joe. Fitting that the worst song is from the worst episode. It isn't even that bad, it's just kind of okay. Number 26, Everybody Look at Me. Wow, 2 for 2 on Happy Campers. It's alright and kind of funny, but Moxie's voice is still annoying, and his character is still ruined in this episode. 25, Teacher Song. It's the first song in the show, not counting the pilot. I mean, it's okay, and it's actually pretty funny, and I like the joke it sets up, but, it's not that memorable, Number 24, Striker Song. Such an amazing joke, but, I wouldn't listen to it outside the show, 23, Vacate a Bone Town. It's like Olivia Rodrigo songs if they were designed to get people horny. That's funny, and it's actually pretty catchy too. I just wish we could hear more of it since 90% of it was cut off, and I don't really like the joke it sets up. I mean, it's funny by itself, but that entire segment of it was just throwing sex at the screen, which isn't that funny, 22, Till the Day We Die. I didn't know this existed, and I 100% forgot about this. It's the one from Seeing Stars. It's cute, and I always like an Eminem song, but again, zero clue this existed. 21, Lululand. This freaking Beetlejuice song gets stuck in my head every other week and lives there rent-free. 20, Chaz Time. Now, a lot of people actually despise this one, but I actually don't mind it. I think it's the perfect example of the most amount of vulgarity in the show. It's just enough to be funny. Any more would be too much, but this whole setup and song is hilarious, even if, once again, it just isn't too, well written, but it makes up for it by being funny. But God, the tonal whiplash in this episode is actually insane. 19, Crooked. I convinced myself that this was a great song, but after re-listening to it, I just don't like it that much. It's a cheesy love ballad, and I get that, but it's just a bit too much cringe for me, 18, The Ballad of Striker. I just wish this were a bit longer because it goes so hard. 17, Clown Bitch. Again, just a bit too cringe, but the visuals and this song are so good, all the colors and vibrant and animation and God, this character is so... 16, Cherub Jingle. Hate the characters all you want, but this is catchy as hell. 15, IMP Jingle. Nothing really beats a classic, This is the real first song, and it's very catchy. 14, Oh Millie. Once again, nothing beats a classic, and this is a really cute song for the couple. 13, Cotton Candy. A bit too repetitive, but the visuals go so hard. 12, Juggling is cool. The collaboration with Tom was so cool and it's so catchy. 11, Stolas Sings. A bit forgettable, but still, now we're reaching the really, really, really good territory. 10, When I See Him. Kicking off the top 10, which what I believe is Blitzo's, first song, and feels the most Broadway out of all of them, 9, Look at This. Yet another Beetlejuice one, and wow, it is a showstopper. 8, 2 Minutes Notice. A bit repetitive, once again, yet another Beetlejuice banger. 7, Just Look My Way. This is the best visuals out of any song in the entire show. Period. Song's really good too. 6, Moxie's Bad Trip. The new style, the great vibe, the switch up, the lyrics, it's all just so amazing. 5, House of Osmodeus. This is the shows you didn't know, and god, do they do it unbelievably well. 4, You'll Be Okay. If this were a bit longer, it'd be the best in the entire show, but as is, still really well written with outstanding visuals and performance, especially for being one of the first ones in the show. 3, All To You, Motherfucker. Oh my god, this is such an insane moment for the episode, and just a show-stopping performance and incredible writing, and everything is so perfect. The visuals are so creative. It's peak. Number 2, Mastermind. So climactic and insanely fun, yet powerful and emotional. It's just outstanding. 1, I'll Be Okay. I adored the song for more personal reasons, but besides that, this is just a perfect parallel to You'll Be Okay, and it's so well written. Now it's finally time for the season ranking, and there's only 2. Similar to Amphibia, even though Owl House and Gravity Falls are more consistent, Amphibia has higher highs, which is why I like it more. And similar to that, I think I slightly prefer Season 2, even if it was more mixed. Overall, it has so many higher highs. So overall, the 2 seasons of Helluva currently out are a mixed but mostly incredible batch of episodes. Now, I can understand why some people might dislike the show, just because I think the humor is really well done. Doesn't mean the style fits everyone else's preferences. I am messing up so much today. As well as the fact that, many people binge watch shows as soon as they come out, whereas a show like this that only releases one episode every couple of months means that they can't exactly get, as attached to these characters and world as much as they'd like to, And I'm not saying I think the show's perfect. Sure, it might be in my top 10 shows of all time, but I can admit its flaws. The world building isn't very fleshed out, certain characters have way less growth and focus than others, not every song or joke is good, and a lot of the show, at least in its current state, is still finding its footing. But despite all of that, I think it's in a damn good spot now. And despite how different it is to the early episodes, looking at the show as a whole, I can't help but love so many aspects of it. Whether that be the endearing characters, well-made story, crazy good animation, mostly great writing and dialogue, vulgar comedy that works, or songs that go unbelievably hard. Overall, the show is just fantastic, and I'm so excited to see where it goes in the future. Speaking of which, before we move on to the next segment of the video where I discuss Hazbin Hotel, I'd like to take a second to add a new segment to these retrospectives. These will only be in retrospectives for shows that haven't ended, and that is the roadmap segment. Basically, where do I want the show to go? What do I think they can improve upon, or what plotlines do I want to see happen in future episodes? Well, as far as I know, there will be 4 seasons of Helluva, and so far, Season 1 was mostly focused on Moxie, in my opinion. A lot of the episodes were set up how he's incompetent and built up to Truth Seekers, while his arc was basically concluded. And the 2-part finale episode was made to set up Blitz and Stolas' arc and Luna's arc for Season 2. Season 2 was mostly focused on Blitz, with side characters like Fizz being introduced and having his own arc concluded, as well as setting up even more plotlines and characters. And the finale set up Millie development and Stolas development. Technically via development, which we'll get to. So, they've already confirmed that there will be 15 episodes in Season 3, which is good because it needs to be a long season. I think with the way they left things off at Season 2, there's a lot to be done. I think it's a good way to structure the season is this. Since Blitz is now famous across Hell, use this as a way to give him more clients. Set up at the start of Mastermind with more people wanting to be hired, and more clients will mean more adventures and more laid-back stories, something that I think everybody has been wanting, including me. I think using this as a way to tone down the show a bit from the dramatic stuff. Now, using this as a setup for more laid-back adventure episodes doesn't mean that I don't want a main plot. I think the way they've set it up is great, finally giving Stella the main villain role, using it as a way to end Stolas' arc, and reuniting with his daughter being a main goal of the season, which can coincide with the adventures. But, of course, that's not all, because Sidsmith had the insane and genius twist that Millie is pregnant. This is such a good way to give the most underdeveloped character actual growth and an arc that makes sense. So for my roadmap for Season 3, finish Stolas and Millie's arcs to end the plotlines with V and Stella, and we'll finish those arcs and the plotlines of V and Stella. Season 4, I think, is just too far out to plan for, so here are some smaller things I'd like to see in Season 3. Number 1, return of old villains like RoboFizz and the plotline with the agents and sheriff, since we know RoboFizz is alive, and I feel like we need to wrap those plots up, you know? Number 2, world building for some of the rings and sins we haven't seen, because, like, even though this is the show that's supposed to, like, explore hell, we really haven't seen a lot of it yet, you know? Number 3, return of Barbie Wire, because that was, like, such a cool plot line and one of the best parts of that episode, so I really hope we see more of her. Number 4, more of Luna's social life, though fortunately we probably won't get a lot of B anytime soon because, you know, voice actor stuff, but I really feel like we need her to, like, help, like, develop Luna, you know? Alrighty, that about wraps up my roadmap for what I want in the next season, and with it, the full retrospective of Helluva. A mixed, but a still amazing show. See you guys later! Except that VivziePop made 2 shows, so let's do this all over again. Hazbin Hotel currently has 1 season, with the second right around the corner as of writing this. Season 2 comes out before this video. I will not be rewriting it, for the sake of getting this out before humanity falls. Hazbin was met with a very similar reaction to Helluva. Quite a few people agree that it's a good show, but most of the internet love to trash on this show. There's only 9 episodes, including the pilot, and 90% of these haters have probably seen a total of 2 seconds of the show before deciding that it sucks, but enough about them. What about me? Well, as for the complaints and consensus, I think overall it is an amazing show. As I've said, but I do still have I end the sentence. I ended the sentence before I was supposed to. I miss my wife, Tails. I still have complaints. It's not too many complaints since it's a short season, but still, I think the humor is a little less consistent than Helluva, and some of the jokes just simply don't land. Even though the songs are generally better, there are a couple of bad songs. I wish we got more Vaggie and Charlie stuff, some more Huss stuff, and episode 3 kind of sucks, which we'll get to. A lot of my complaints lie more with specific episodes, which I'll go over when I rank them, but yeah, that's my complaints / consensus. Time for the episode ranking. Number 9, Scrambled Eggs. This is the only episode of the show that I actively dislike. Not only does it have one of my least favorite songs, which we'll eventually get to, but it is also just, like, extremely boring when it's not focused on the overlords. It barely moves the plot forward besides the reveal that What's-Her-Name was the one who killed the angel, which they could have just revealed in episode 7 when they reveal how she did it. And it just makes Charlie insufferable. The only thing I actually like about the episode is that a lot of the jokes are some of my favorites from the show. But besides that, it's just a boring episode. Number 8, Pilot. Yeah, gonna be 100% honest, I was never a big fan of the pilot. I originally wasn't even gonna check out Hazbin Hotel because I disliked the pilot, and I was just gonna keep watching Helluva, but with all the good reviews, I decided to watch it, and now I love it. Anyways, I think the pilot is a good enough introduction, but I like the core vibe and humor that really gave the series its charm. Kind of just feels like meandering with outdated versions of characters for 30 minutes, and I never got into it. But it is still canon, and it does still have a lot of good things about it, even if the song makes me pass out from cringe. The Every Demon is a Rainbow one, not the opening. The opening is really good. But again, we'll get to that when we get to the song ranking. Number 7, Hello Rosie. This is the first one that I legitimately really enjoy, even if it is still on, like, the lower side of the ranking. The introduction of Cannibal Town, I'm gonna say it like that, Cannibal Town. Rosie being such a delightful character, the entire bit with Susan, the ace in the hole gag, and out of the two seasons, sorry, I just had a huge nosebleed, so my voice sucks right now, and I can't really read, because it's laggy, but, okay, let's try this again, and one out of the 2 songs being my favorites, which I won't reveal which until we get to the song ranking. Honestly, my biggest problem is the cliche third act breakup. I don't think there was a single person who believed Charlie would stay broken up with Vaggie, and while it definitely isn't, like, the worst third act breakup, and I do think it was alright, still, Danny Modest said it perfectly. Charlie realistically should not care. I mean, they acknowledge it in the episode. Why did she leave? It doesn't really make any sense at all. But, you know, whatever. Just go watch Danny Modest. Number 6, Overture. The far superior first episode that sets up the world and characters very well, and has some pretty consistent songs and running throughout. Number 5, Radio killed the video star. I'm gonna make you wish that you'd stayed. Okay, hold on to your excitement for a minute. Anyways, this is such a great episode. The V's are a great threat, Vox has a great vibe to his character, the animation was surprisingly even better than usual, and we even get some Alistair lore. My only problem is that I wish Serpention's stuff wasn't as, rushed, But still, a super solid episode. Number 4, Dad Beat Dad. Lucifer is such a fun character. Never thought I'd say that. And has great conflict with Alistair, yet still is a deadbeat dad and not the greatest person, yet still acknowledges his wrongdoings and apologizes to Charlie. It's great character writing, but besides Lucifer, who's the star of the show, this episode is still really good. Has amazing visuals, especially during the songs. The songs themselves are 2 of my absolute favorites out of the entire show, and the comedy is just on point. Number 3, Welcome to Heaven. Great world building, creative way to depict heaven, amazing twist with Vaggie, and crazy cliffhanger. Such an amazing episode. Number 2, The Show Must Go On. It was really hard to choose between this and the number 1 spot, but even still, this episode was insane. The songs, oh my god, shut up about the songs, just wait for the song ranking. Serpention's sacrifice and then getting redeemed, the cliffhanger, the visuals with the battle, the tension building up to it, it's just so amazing and a well-done season finale that makes me so excited for season 2. But, of course, there's one episode that's better. Number 1, Masquerade. Now, I'm sure you've probably heard of this episode or seen it, but if you haven't, I probably have to put up trigger warnings for that, and all these other things on screen. If any of these disturb you, please feel free to skip past this discussion of this episode by going to the next segment that is timestamp. With that out of the way, this is just such an incredible episode. Now, I don't want to say I know what is and isn't inaccurate of that kind of stuff, but because I just don't. But from what I can tell, this is a good depiction of it. Now, one of our friends did say that they disliked the episode because supposedly other episodes make jokes about this kind of stuff, like with the Serpentious gag in episode 6, but I think that's a gross misunderstanding of those jokes. I think the show knows when to be lighthearted and when to be serious. Hell, this episode has lighthearted bits to it, but it flows naturally and doesn't contrast with the more serious subjects. It has 2 of my favorite songs in the whole show, amazing visuals. The scene in particular with the sexual assault is so disturbing and horrifying, but it's so well done that I can't help but say that this is probably the best written scene out of any episode in the entire show. Angel's character growth and conflict helped make his character much more than he let on, and one last thing before we move on to the song ranking, just a little thing I want to get out here. I do not think Husker Dust is canon currently, and I don't really want it to be canon. And no, that does not mean I'm homophobic. I really like Charlie and Vaggie's relationship and how it's handled, and I think that if the show does move Husker Dust in this direction, I wouldn't mind it if it's well done, but I think that currently, there's nothing that suggests they be a couple. I think this is just a case of the fandom tricking themselves into thinking it's true, because everything I see, I just see them as, friends, and that's where I think it's trying to lead it. Again, I wouldn't mind it if it's well done, but I just see them better off as friends. Feel free to tear me apart in the comments, but yeah, such an incredible episode. So, that's the episode ranking. Time to talk about one of my favorite aspects of the entire show, the music. Number 20, Welcome to Heaven. I know this was supposed to be a generic way to introduce heaven, but it is still, nonetheless, generic. 19, Inside of Every Demon is a Rainbow. Stupidly long title, very cringe lines, very cringe point of the show. All of it is just super cringe. This is like Gacha Life, Imagine Dragons 2011 level of just cringe. 18, Whatever It Takes. Yeah, I know a lot of people are fans of the song, and I do think it had a bunch of potential, but simply put, it's just a huge letdown. The vocals are pretty good, but the delivery is just kind of awkward and stilted. It doesn't really do much to advance the plot, and it feels like they could have just cut it out. It's honestly by far the most forgettable too, and it's a case of a good idea for a song in the worst episode. 17, Out for Love. I'm probably pissing a lot of people off right now, but this is just not as good as people say. I like What's-Her-Name as a character, and her vocals are pretty good, but for some reason, they cannot stop giving her the cringiest lyrics imaginable. I won't lie, it's a pretty catchy song, and if it were on in the background, I'd probably like it, but as a plot device, the writing is just interesting, to say the least. 16, Addict. I'm sure this was a masterpiece back when it was released. Keyword is back when it was released. Now, I personally think the time when a song was released doesn't matter. There are songs from the 60s or 70s that are my top favorite songs of all time, or songs from 2012 that I can still enjoy. I don't think time matters with music. Most of the time. Imagine Dragons songs still sound like 2010's garbage, and this song still sounds like a Gotcha Life mini-movie theme song released in 2017, and no matter how hard I try, I cannot distance that aspect from the song itself. It's just too cringe for me, despite it being pretty sort of well written, I guess. 15, Happy Day in Hell. This is a great opener. It's a bit of a letdown compared to the other songs of the season, and even other ones compared to this episode, but it's a great way to establish the tone of the series. 14, Alistair's replies. God, this is so catchy, but so short. If this were a full song, it would be top of the list. Alistair truly has some of the best songs in the whole show. 13, it starts with Sorry. I have seen the song travel through the depths of hell on the internet, and that's besides the fact that the show is set in hell. People trash on the song like it committed genocide on a nation just because it's slightly cliche, but it really isn't that bad. It's just a sweet little wholesome song. Get over yourselves. 12, More Than Anything Reprise. This one's also a bit underrated. Of course, it's not as good as the original, but still, a little sweet duet with Charlie and Baggy, and a gay kiss. Let's go! But besides that, it's a good reprise. 11, I'm Always Chasing Rainbows. A legitimately beautiful opener for the pilot. The visuals and vocals and melodies are just so gorgeous. 10, Respectless. Now, this is a similar situation to Out for Love, where it's catchy, but the writing's a bit cringe. I mean, come on. Just come on, man. It's just, wow. But unlike Out for Love, most of it is actually pretty good. 9, Ready for This. This truly feels like a real musical ballad. It's a powerhouse with everything down to the vocals and the writing and layering symphonies. It's so climactic and hyped up the finale so much. 8, Hell is Forever. Now, this is the first, true banger of the series. I memorized the lyrics without even trying. It's so catchy and memorable, and Alex Brightman's Beetlejuice's vocals are so good. And even besides this episode, I just love the performance of Beetlejuice, and also Beetlejuice, and also but yeah, this is just such a banger. 7, More Than Anything. God, the visuals are so beautiful and smooth in this. The vocal deliveries are so harmonic. The writing is so beautiful, and you really feel for the devil from the Bible. 6, Finale. Now, this is a good closer. Everything about it is just so amazing. It's so catchy and such an amazing way to end off season 1. God, it's just so good. 5, Stayed Gone. All I really need to do is just play the song and you get it. Even devoted Hazbin haters still appreciate the song. It's just such a good duet between villains. It's so fun and upbeat, and God, it's just welcome home. Number 4, You Didn't Know. This is the most storytelling song of the show, and while that does mean it's a bit difficult to play by itself, it serves the story so well while still being a banger and switches beats every 30 seconds, going harder and harder the further along it goes. Truly just the best aspect of that episode, It's like I said earlier, it's very similar to Ozzy's, except with this one, the episode is way longer, so I feel like the long length of the song justifies it, Number 3, Hell's Greatest Ad. My biggest problem is that it just is a tiny bit too short, but wow, does this go hard as hell. I listen to this all the time. This isn't only in my main playlist, but it's even in my favorites playlist. God, it's so good. Yet another duet with an Alistair rival. Such good creative visuals. Every line delivery is just so good. That one snippet we got a few years ago got me so excited, and it was even better than I could have imagined. 2, Poison. Crazy that the top 2 are from the same episode, and wow, it was hard to decide between them. These top 2 are both incredible songs, even on their own. And even though this wasn't number 1, wow, it's so good. The brutal visuals accompanying the heartbreaking lyrics and great performance, tackling such heavy subjects with respect and, as far as I can tell, accurately depicts what that's like, Once again, I'm 100% uneducated about those subjects, but from what I can tell, it does a good job. But, of course, number 1 has to be Loser Baby. Holy shit. Keith David's heavenly vocals, the incredible visuals, such a great duet and character growth for both characters. Everything is just so good. It's such an amazing mid-season showstopper. Of course it's number 1. It's so incredible. Alrighty, so now that the song ranking's done, time for the overall retrospective. Since I can't really, rank the seasons if there's only one, as of writing this. So, I'm not. So, yeah, I'm just gonna retrospectify it. I guess that's the word. So overall, I'm messing up so much in this video. Oh my god. Anyways, yeah, overall, the show is incredible. Argue with the Christian wall. Also note, this is not making fun of the religion. I'm simply poking fun at the people who like hate this show just because it's apparently against Christianity, even though it's a work of fiction, and they're completely fine with something like Ultra Kill, which literally starts with God dead. Like, canonically, he's dead. But no, the adult cartoon is apparently too much for them to handle, and all they do is swear and make such... okay, alright, I'll stop. But wait a minute, Slepdep. You haven't discussed what was put in the title of the video. Why is the internet wrong about Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss? Do I actually have to talk about it? Yeah. Fine. Yeah, I actually do want to take a little bit before I retrospectify and talk about that aspect of it. So, as I've already discussed, people hate this show. And, well, again, it's completely fine if you just dislike the show for whatever normal reason. Like, you just dislike the writing or the art style or whatever. That's fine. But a lot of the arguments people make just don't really make a lot of sense to me. And this is more not trying to overall prove it wrong, just to show my opinion of each of these concerns. So, what exactly do people hate about Hazbin? Besides that. And that. I mean, and that. And I mean, only the first two are invalid criticisms, but putting aside the admittedly odd fan base, since that's outshouted the actual content of the show, people usually complain about the art style and character design, the style of comedy, especially the use of vulgar language, and the overall plot and character writing. Now, I will preface. It's okay to dislike the show. The title was only 50% clickbait. If the show isn't your thing, that's fine. I've seen plenty of pieces of media that just aren't my personal taste. Homogenic by Bjork, One Piece, The Lighthouse. I take back my previous 2 words. I don't just not like The Lighthouse, I hate it with all my guts. But that's for a different video. This was supposed to be a Hazbin and Helluva review. But yeah, if you don't like the show just because you don't like it, it's fine. But would I really make an entire 30 to 40 minute long video if I didn't feel passionate about it? I'm sure that statement will age well. But here are the reasons why I personally think these criticisms don't make a whole lot of sense to me. Number 1, the art style. Now, I get it. Some art styles have made me completely stop watching shows or avoid them altogether. No matter how good or bad it is, I will never watch Arthur because seeing this style makes me want to puke. And I can see where people are coming from. Their usual points are about how all the characters look the same or are too skinny. So let's take a look through the characters. Yeah, no, how does white fluffy Spider-Man look like red suited deer guy, look like big angel guy with a mask, look like Mimsy, look like TV head? I guess I do get the skinny thing though, besides a few characters. They are all quite a bit skinny, but my question is, why don't you care about this, or this, or this, or this, or next up, the style of comedy and use of vulgar language. Now, with the style of comedy, I do sort of get it. Not everyone likes those kind of jokes and humor, and it's not for everyone. But vulgar language? I'm starting to question if the Hazbin haters are secretly the United States rating system in disguise. So, fun fact, anyone 18 or above is considered a legal adult, and legal adults, I would hope, can handle hearing the word shit. And it's even funnier fact, the show is actually 18 plus. Then why the hell did you watch it? It's recommended, not required. But still, if a show has a rating of over 18 and, also takes place in literal hell, I think it's not that insane to assume that maybe there would be some vulgar language. Now, I can admit, the show does use a lot, but in my opinion, I don't know, it feels natural to the characters. Never feels like over the top or out of place, and context always makes sense for it. Plus, with other shows like South Park abuse the words way more and get away with it for some reason. If you like South Park using vulgar language, what is so different about Hazbin? Also, vulgar language is not a reason to despise an entire show. It can be a nitpick, but hating an entire show solely because of how vulgar it is doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And it kind of just, disregards everything else the series does and focuses on one aspect that isn't even that important. So, the final criticism, besides those ones, is the overall plot and character development. So people usually say that the plot is just too anti-Christian, the angels and the bad guys and God... Oh wait, no, that's the invalid one. So people say the character writing doesn't make a lot of sense. For example, I've seen someone on TikTok say Angel Dust is a badly written character because he's usually hypersexual even though he's sexually abused. Do I have to explain this? Do I really have to? Or can you just use Google and get the point across within 10 seconds? I've also seen people say that Vaggie and Charlie are underwritten compared to Angel Dust. Well, let's see. There's a total of 2 episodes where Angel Dust is the main focus, if we're being generous, because let's be honest, he's not really the main focus in episode 6. And, 7, where Charlie and Vaggie are the main focus. Yeah. I've seen people say that Alistair is Alistair is a bad villain. Now, is this because of bad writing? Or because there's only 8 episodes out, and they probably don't want to make one of the main characters a villain yet? And finally, I've seen people say that just Charlie is a bad main character, which I just don't get. Sure, she does have the trope of a quirky main girl character, and it's a little overdone, but the show's been in production for, like, over a decade, so, you know, it kind of gets a pass, but even besides that, she's a great contrast to all the awful misery of hell. Yet she's not just a 2D character with no change in her demeanor. She feels realistic and well thought out. Having her as a main character honestly makes the show way more interesting. Even though there's a million other complaints people have, those are the main ones that I wanted to talk about. And once again, this isn't like proving people wrong. This is just my opinion on those, those types and trying to offer another perspective on them. Okay, so now we can finally retrospectify this and be done with this long video. So, as I was saying, this is just a really great series. In only 8 episodes, technically 9 if you count the pilot, it hooks me into the plot so much, and I'm really, really excited for the next season. I wasn't even interested in watching it in the first place, but after only a few episodes, it developed the plot so well, set up very endearing characters with stories that make you really feel for them, an atmosphere that depicts a pretty creative take on hell and heaven, lots of world building and setup for the social hierarchy and how things work, banger songs, stunning visuals, great tracking of heavy subjects I think I do not know, very funny jokes, and just a musical charm that makes the theater kid side of me absolutely fall in love with the show. One big complaint I didn't mention was that there are unfortunately a lot of glaring plot holes. If you think about stuff for more than a minute, it just doesn't make any sense, like how angels can be harmed by a rock and a table, and how Vaggie didn't know angels could be harmed when she had her eye taken out. Actually, just watch Danny Mata's reaction. He points out most of the plot holes there. However, it wasn't really their fault. They had 8 episodes to set up an enticing season. Of course there wasn't enough time to flesh some stuff out. And I did feel like for the most part, they actually did flesh it out pretty well. It was just near the end when things didn't really make a whole lot of sense. But I'm sure with season 2, they'll fix it. So yeah, this show is just really amazing. I love almost every aspect of it. And it's legitimately such a great step forward for the medium of animation. No matter how you feel about it, Jesus and all. If I had to pick a favorite between Helluva and Hazbin, I think overall probably Helluva, since it just has more content, but I think that the more that comes out with Hazbin, the better it will get, and God, I cannot wait for season 2. Which is not out currently at the time of writing and recording this. Speaking of season 2, time for the last segment, which I'll make as quick as I possibly can, the roadmap. I think season 2 should have more focus on the V's and Alistair's backstory, as well as Angel Dust's arc, as well as more hotel side episodes. I think season 3 should focus on the stuff with Heaven and the stuff with Rue and Lilith. And if they make a season 4, make it centered around fat nuggets. Alrighty, I'm tired. Have fun spamming the cross emoji in the comments. I'm gonna go to bed now. Bye. What do you mean I have to edit the video? Thank you guys so much for watching this. I'm going to make this the quickest outro I've ever done because, oh my god, this video was so long. I messed up so much in it. I had to shoehorn in so much writing that I forgot to do, and I had to make a 5-paragraph long comment about all the stuff I missed, because this was way more ambitious than I expected. Wow, okay. But yeah, expect this to be the norm. This is usually how long the retrospectives are going to be. This was only slightly longer because I had to review 2 shows in one. But this is usually how long videos are going to be. It's not going to take this long because I'm going to be honest, for the first month after the last video, I actually didn't work on this at all. That's why it's taken 3 months, because I only started working on it a month later. But yeah, no, I say this every time, but I'm actually going to try and get a good schedule going. The next video is going to be kind of long, but the 2 ones after that shouldn't be long at all. Okay, That's enough. That was definitely not the quickest outro I've ever done. Whatever. Bye. I'm done. Have fun. Backflip, I guess. I don't know.